So this may not be a favorite subject. It's not my favorite subject, but I'm going to talk about patience and waiting. Yeah, see, you guys are right there along with me. But there's benefits in waiting on God. And we're going to talk about those benefits and what they are. It's so funny how physical will mirror what goes on in the spiritual. When I was little and I was told to wait, I realized that there's different kinds of waiting. For instance, when you are with your parents in a waiting room and they tell you to wait, that doesn't mean kick your legs back and forth and get up and hop down, because I'm waiting, right? But there's a way to wait in a situation. In that situation, I was the only one when I looked around bouncing my legs and hopping up and down, and my parents quickly brought that to my attention. That's not how we wait here. And then there was times when we were going to get ready to go somewhere, and I was already ready, and I would say, "Can I go outside and play until we leave?" My mom would say, "Sure." I could handle that kind of waiting because I was busy doing something. And then that waiting went by so much quicker. Well, there's times in God's waiting room, if you will, that we stay busy while we're waiting. And that makes it so much easier. Then there's those times that he says, "Stand still, be still, and wait." That's where you start fidgeting inside, because man, it's so hard to wait. But David talks about patiently waiting on God and what that benefit brought him to his life. See, we wait, but we're not always patient in our waiting. We may wait in line in the checkout stand at Walmart because we don't want to just leave those groceries behind. We really want those. But sometimes we don't wait too patiently. And so the turnout is not as good. Our day's not as good because now all of a sudden we have a little bit of an attitude. Perhaps the cashier catches an attitude off of our attitude, and then of course everybody in the world is going to pull out in front of you that day, and it's just because you were in that waiting time, but you didn't handle it the right way. So David is telling God, he says, "I'm waiting on you, but I'm patiently waiting on you." Our culture has done us a disservice in the generation that we live in because we're used to instant access to everything that we want. And when it's not instant, we get very impatient. I've caught myself in a time when I guess I really wasn't even that busy, but for some reason, the microwave was just taking too long. It seemed like it was taking forever to get to that 60 seconds. And the society knows that. They will even brand things in the store, especially for working women that are stressed and they're trying to cut down on time, and we'll notice the one that says instant. We got minute rice now. That's great. We have instant pudding. You don't have to stand there and stir it like you used to. We have faster and better. And therefore, we really haven't learned how to wait. It's really strange. I was reading an advertisement way back when they were first bringing the appliances, and they were highlighting this to the women of the house of, you will have so much time now because now you've got a dishwasher and now you have a plug-in iron. They were talking about the appliances, and what's so crazy is some of society was so worried about this freed up time because what will women do now? Because they're going to have this extra time. Well, we've got to where now everything we want to have that extra time, and so we want to get things done and off of our checklist. And if you notice, God doesn't work off of a checklist or your to-do list. He doesn't always go in order. But because we're human, it's hard to wait on God, and often we will say, "When, God, when? I'm tired and I'm weary of the same situation, and I've prayed and I prayed," and we start to say, "When, God?" But David tells us in the Bible, he assures us that there are benefits on waiting for God. If we would begin to recognize the benefits found in patiently waiting on God and doing what we could do until He answers, things would be so different for us. In fact, in the root word of patiently waiting is to be expectant and expecting God to do something. It's to be hopeful in your situation. So I want to read in Psalms chapter 40. We're going to read verses 1 through 3, and this is David talking about a time in his life when he had been waiting. It said that I waited patiently for the Lord. I want you to notice there that his focus was not on his situation. His focus was on the one that could solve the situation. He said, I waited for the Lord. And he inclined to me, and he heard my cry. He also brought me up out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay. And he set my feet upon a rock, and he established my steps. He's put a new song in my mouth, praise to our God. Many will see it and fear, and then will trust in the Lord. So this means that while I am waiting on God, I'm hopeful and I am expecting His answer. That means that I'm still staying connected with Him. I'm still walking with Him. I'm still going to stay close to Him. See, where we get in problems is when we wait in God, but when He doesn't respond in the time that we want, then some people will get upset. They'll get angry. They'll get jealous of their fellow brother and sister that has an answered prayer. They'll quit church. They'll quit reading their Bible, and sometimes they even quit God. But when you are patiently waiting on God and you don't take matters into your own hands to try to fix it in your own power, things change. When I try to fix a situation in my own power and don't go to God first, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to make things worse. See, because God is God. He's been around a whole lot longer than I've ever been here, and He knows a thing or two. It's better for me to wait on Him. But see, while God is working on the answer, He's also working on me. He has to get me in a place that I can handle the answer to that situation. Maybe He's working on my patience. Maybe He's working on my maturity. Maybe He's working on me getting wiser so that when I get that answer, I'm able to keep it. So often we say, God, I'm waiting on you, and He's saying, yeah, I'm waiting on you. It's been ready. You're just not there yet. But see, the devil wants to tell us when, God, when, why, God, why won't you? And while we may still be waiting, we are complaining while we're waiting. David said, I want to wait patiently on Him. Because he says, when I wait patiently on Him, he says that He inclines to me and He hears my cry. He hears my prayer. Now, God will always hear a prayer. He's not going to turn a deaf ear to a prayer. But how He responds is completely different. And when David's talking about He hears my cry, he's not talking about bitter tears. He's talking about I am hopeless and helpless without you. See, that pulls God towards you. It's all in your attitude. When I was really little, I started observing people and situations around me. And I quickly would watch and see what would work and what would not work. And I tried to go to the side of what would work. So some people say, well, that's manipulation, and I disagree. That's wisdom. Even with God, throwing a temper tantrum is not going to work with Him. Patiently waiting with Him is going to work with Him. And having an expectation and your trust in Him. So for instance, when I was 5 or 6, the biggest coin that I always wanted was the quarter. It was the biggest one. I had never seen a half dollar. I probably would have lost my mind, but in my mind, it was the quarter. And man, my dad, when he would pay for stuff, there was always plenty of change in his pocket. Sometimes he would even jingle when he walked. I knew I couldn't get him into the wallet, but man, that changed. And see, what was so important to me about the quarters was you could go to the store. I could walk to the convenience store, and I could get candy that was 1 penny. And so for a quarter, you would walk out with a bag full of candy. Man, that's what I wanted. So I tried the, Dad, can I have a quarter? Dad, can I have a quarter? Dad, can I have a quarter? And he would say no. Or he would say in just a minute. And I would keep bothering him till I didn't get the quarter. Have you been in that situation where you tell the child you're going to go do something, but because they keep bugging you and bugging you and bugging you and bugging you, you're like, you know what? We were going to go, and now we're not even going to go because we're both mad now. So I realized that doesn't work. It's easy for him to reach in and have a quarter. In fact, he wouldn't even miss it. Same way with God. It's easy for God to do whatever he wants to do in the world. It doesn't even make him any more tired. It doesn't even take any energy from him. It doesn't deplete him in the least. It doesn't deplete his supply in the least. And we're like that little kid that wants the quarter in his pocket, and when we don't get it, sometimes we'll throw a temper tantrum and fall on the floor. And what happens is that delays us getting a quarter, plus it also maybe puts us in a worse situation. God isn't withholding from you to punish you. He's not withholding from you because he's angry at you. He's withholding from you because the answer isn't the best thing for you yet. Oh, you think it might be. And here's what's really strange. You can focus so much on that answer that you lose sight of God. And you can focus so much on what that answer needs to be that it becomes your idol. It becomes the first thing that you think about in the morning, the last thing you think about before you go to bed. It becomes the one thing that you say, if I could just have this, it would solve everything. God's the one that can solve everything. So see, he has to get us to a place that we will patiently wait on him and say, you know, I wanted this done yesterday, but I'm going to wait on you because I know what is best. I've actually told God a few times, probably more than I can count, thank you for not answering that prayer. Because when I was a little bit wiser, a little bit more mature, my eyes were a little bit more clear, my focus was more on him, I realized that wasn't what I needed at all. I thought it was. So I thought, well, I can't go about just asking him and then pestering for it. Because see, kind of his fault a little bit. I did listen in church, even if I was playing. And he had talked about the lady that kept bothering the king. And finally he said, I can't take it anymore. Bring her in here. Why? Because she just wouldn't stop. She was just constantly. So I tried that out. That didn't work with my dad. That got me in trouble. I'm like, well, put that one on the shelf. That's not it. So instead, I thought I need to patiently but expect. So I said, Dad, this is how I would go. And he would let me do the whole thing. He knew what I was doing. But I said, Dad, you got a lot of change in your pocket. Yeah, I do. Bet you got a quarter in there. I'm sure I do. Can I have a quarter? I don't know. Not right now. Okay. Then I'd go off and play. And I'd come back and I'd say, Dad, I'm really going to be happy when you give me that quarter. He's like, yeah, I know. Go play. Okay. So I would go and play. And I'd wait a little bit. And I'd say, Dad, I love you. Yeah, I love you too. Go play. Okay. And I thought, this is working. He doesn't even know what I'm doing. Well, he did. But in my mind, I'm like, I am working this. I'm going to end up with a quarter. And I come back in. I'm like, Dad, it sure makes me happy when you give me that quarter. And he goes, yeah, I know. And I say, so when you're ready to give me that quarter, let me know because I'm going to be playing in my room. Okay. So I go play in my room. And I would wait what I thought was a good time. And I'd come back out and I said, Dad, "You about ready to give me that quarter now? What do you think?" He says, "Well, let me see if I've got one." And sure enough, I would end up with a quarter. I would leave with a smile thinking I had just worked this out so well. But he was teaching me attitude is what he was teaching me. He was teaching me gratefulness. And one time when I had done my little routine again, I had a friend over. And I had the friend over, and my dad surprised me because he gave me 2 quarters. One for me and one for my friend. But as I'm walking out with the 2 quarters, I'm thinking she doesn't know about these 2 quarters in my hand. And I can tell her she needs to go home. And I can get 50 pieces of candy. And I'm walking out to where she's outside waiting for me, and I've got these quarters. But I thought, I didn't have a quarter to begin with, so I'll still have my quarter. And so I gave her a quarter. And we were both so excited. And I ended up realizing that was the best thing I could have did, because walking to that convenience store, that was the happiest time I had been walking in a long time. I'm walking with a buddy, and we're both going to stand there, and it's going to take us forever, it seems, to pick out our 25 pieces of candy. And I'm sharing this blessing with her, and I'm getting to see her happiness and her joy because I stepped out and asked for something. And then we got to go home together and spread all that candy out together and put it in little piles and decide what we were going to eat first and what we were going to save. And it was the best day ever. That's what God wants us to do when you receive more than enough. That's why he says that I have blessed you so that you will be a blessing. Maybe that's why he has you go towards him with a person in mind for a prayer, so that not only will you be blessed, but they will be blessed. Sharing your blessings is the very best. So when I came to my dad with the right attitude and the right frame of mind, he listened. He listened to me. And that's what David is saying. He's saying, I'm waiting on you. But while I'm waiting on you, I'm going to have a good attitude. And I'm not going to throw that temper tantrum like a little toddler. Because, see, 2 things happen when you throw a temper tantrum when you're young, and every child goes through it. They don't know how to handle such big emotions that it just comes out one way or the other, and sometimes it's throwing a fit on the floor. But you can't let that continue. I get it. I understand the temper tantrum, but that's not going to get you anywhere. So with my daughter, she was very persistent, and she would not get her way, and she would flop herself down on the ground and at the house, and I would just step over her and go into the other room. And she would hobble into where I was, fall down at my feet again and cry, and I'd say, "I love you," and I'd step over her and I'd go into the other room. Well, we would do this 4 or 5 rooms, and by the 5th room, it had kind of tired her out a little bit because she was realizing, oh, that's not going to work. Or if we were in public, sometimes I had to discipline with more than my words. So 2 things were going to happen, but neither one of them was she going to get the outcome. Because see, if I gave into that temper tantrum then she's working me. And she's going to think if I throw a temper tantrum here and get that way, then I'm going to throw a temper tantrum in every relationship, in every situation of my life. It wasn't that I didn't want to give her what she was wanting. It's just it wasn't the right time. I did not want to give her Skittles for breakfast. That was not being a good parent. In her mind, I have the power. It's not going to really cost me anything per se. It's easy to do. Why won't I do it? Well, see, we shake our heads thinking, oh, man. And you'd really shake your head if you were out in public and you saw an adult do that on the floor. You'd think, oh my gosh. Somebody get this guy some medication, call the police, do something. There's something really wrong with this person right here. But do we do that spiritually with God? How mature are we in our walk with God that we will trust that he knows best and his timing is the best? And if we'll learn to patiently wait on him, because he knows your situation, he knows what you want, and he's not withholding on purpose. So the first thing that I do when things are not turning around is I say, God, show me me. Am I holding this up? What am I supposed to be doing while I'm waiting on you? Because otherwise, what's going to happen, if you don't turn it on you first, then the enemy's going to have you like a victim. God doesn't love me, I guess. I prayed and I prayed. It doesn't change. What's wrong with me? And then the enemy will point out everybody else that seems to be doing wonderful. Look at them. They got what they asked for. They're doing fine. Why am I stuck in this pit? So David tells us that not only if we wait patiently for God, that there's benefits, he'll say that God will incline his ear and he'll hear you. He'll lean close in the situation. But when we get upset and quit talking to God, that doesn't change anything. See, God doesn't respond to our temper because he's not manipulated. So if he doesn't respond, then we quickly turn to anger or a pity party. What's wrong about this is your actions then shut off God from working in your life. 99.9% of the people that say that they are an atheist, it's all a myth, I don't believe in it, it's superstition, it's a fairy tale. At the bottom of that, they are angry at God because God didn't fit into their box. God didn't do what they thought a God should do. They're still throwing the temper tantrum. But God says, if you wait for me patiently, I'm going to do some things for you in that waiting period. All we have to do is learn to stay with him and keep believing in his might and his power and his timing. God hears your cry. He sees your tears. But ask God first before you start blaming him for keeping you in that situation. Say, God, show me me. Show me what I need to do while I'm waiting on you. God helps those who realize that they are helpless without him. In the second verse, he says that he also brought me out of a horrible pit and out of miry clay. We've all been in those pits of darkness. And when you wait and call upon God, God will bring you out at the right time, and he'll take you out of the miry clay. And clay, if you haven't walked through some mud, it's a sticky situation. It sticks to you. So you could be out of the horrible pit, but man, you still have something that's sticking to you. And David says that when we wait on God and we wait trusting him and are patient and we put our hope in him, that he'll bring you out of that darkness. He'll bring you out of that prison. He'll take you out of the miry clay so that you can walk. And he's going to put your feet on a rock, a solid ground, so you've got a solid foundation to stand upon. And then he says, not only is he going to put my feet upon the rock when I wait on him, that he's going to establish my steps. See, he's going to bring you up out of this so that he can set you up to where you need to be walking in your life. He was in the pit. He was in a prison of his situation, and he couldn't get out unless he called upon God. He knew that's where his help came from. See, when he sets your feet upon the rock, the feet means the path that you're going to walk. When you learn how to patiently wait on God with the right attitude, he's not only going to lift you up and out, but he's going to set you up to where you should be. And then he's going to say, this is the way that we're going to walk now. See, our God is so good, and he's done so much for me. He has a great track record with me. And that's what I lean on when things aren't going my way or the answer seems like it's so far off. And that I've waited and I've waited and I've waited. I remind myself of all that he's done for me. See, he saved me, he cleansed me, he delivered me, he pulled me out of the pit. He set me up and he put my feet on a solid foundation. So if he did it once, he's going to do it again. That's the character of who he is, and I have to rely and trust in his knowledge that he knows what is best for me. He may not come like we want him to, but he's never late. He's always right on time. Also in the third verse, it says that he's going to give me a new song. In other words, praises are going to be in my mouth, where before maybe it was complaints and cuss words. He's going to give me a new song because, see, some of us have been singing the blues too long. Well, that's my favorite style of music. That's not my favorite way of life. And we know that song by heart. That's what we go to wake up singing. That's what we go to bed singing. God says, I want to give you a new song. I want you to sing about my might and my power and how you're victorious and how I have good plans for you and how I love you and you are wonderfully and fearfully created, how you are meant to be here at this time. You're not a mistake. You're not an accident. How the world needs you to be here. I want you to sing those songs. I'm going to put those songs in your mouth. That's what I want you to say. And then before he closes those verses, he says that people will then watch and they'll begin to fear the Lord. I'm not talking about being afraid of the Lord. I'm talking about putting him high in reverence. You respect his position. You respect who he is. Because when we say we are a Christian and things don't go right and we don't behave any differently than the non-Christian, are we really a believer? See, David says, people are watching me how I handle this situation. I've got enemies surrounding me. My family has turned on me. I'm running for my life. They know that I call on God. People are watching how I handle this situation. Maybe you're going through a situation just so you can show somebody else how to go through that situation with God. And they will think, well, you know what? If God does it for them, then maybe God will do it for me. See, you are all preachers and pastors. You don't have to have a pulpit. You don't have to have a mic, because your life is a sermon. Your life is a testimony. You make a difference. What you do is important. So he says, I'm going to have a new song. And then the last verse that I want to use again talks about those that wait on God and the benefits that's going to come when they wait on God. There's many more than just a couple of verses, but I'm just going to use a couple this morning. And this one is found in Isaiah chapter 40. And I'm going to read 29 through 31. This is what God does. He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, he increases their strength. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait on the Lord, they shall renew their strength, and they shall mount up with wings like eagles, and they shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. But those that wait upon the Lord, you can never outgive God. Even when it seems like you're doing most of the work, he's like, no, I've got benefits. I got benefits for you, because you're going to be able to run and you're going to soar. There's a thing that I had shared to the church Facebook, and it talked about an eagle in flight. And the only bird that really bothers the eagle is a crow. And the crow will get on the back of the eagle and he'll pick at the eagle's neck. And the eagle doesn't turn around and fight, because the eagle knows what to do in that situation. The enemy's going to pick at the back of your neck. He wants to take you down. He wants to be at the back because he can get close to whisper in the ears. He can peck on the back of the head because it gets closer to the brain. We have to outsmart him. You are smarter than him, because you know where to run to, where your help is. You reach high, not low. So what he does is he takes off, and the crow's still there, pecking on his back. But the eagle knows if he gets high enough, that the crow could no longer breathe. Because, see, the eagle was made to take the high, high altitudes. You were made to soar like the eagles. And what he does is when he gets so high, the crow runs out of oxygen. The crow has two choices. It can die right there, or it has to let go and go back down to the lower ground where it can breathe. The same thing is us with Christians and believers. When you got problems and situations, rather than throwing a temper tantrum, you keep soaring to the sky. You keep keeping your eyes high. And eventually the enemy has to let go. Every time you praise, you weaken the enemy's hold on the back of your neck. Every single time. That's why he says, praise me when you're in the pit. Praise me when you're in the prison. Because that's your way out. There are benefits on patiently waiting for God. So I'm going to ask God to give us a heart of patience. I'm going to ask him to help us to not lose hope or lose our temper, but to trust in him and to trust in his timing. I'm thankful that he will lift us out of a pit or a prison. And when we say yes, that he's drawn to us. He's going to give us, he says, a new song. When you're feeling really sad and you're crying, it's hard to sing through those tears. But when you're happy, man, even if you don't sing that good, you're going to sound so good to God's ears when you sing his praises. See, so there's different ways of waiting for God. Sometimes we can be busy while we wait. He's like, you keep working on things, you keep living, you keep reading your Bible, you keep doing what you need to do while I work this out. Then there's other times in the Bible where he says, stand still. Oh, that's hard. You still keep praying, but he wants you to stand and watch. For us to heal us, for him to heal us, we have to get really still sometimes. It's hard to look in a mirror when you're running by. Sometimes you have to stand in front of the mirror. Sometimes you have to turn the light on a little bit brighter. And you may not like what you see, but what you see is what it is. And if you want it to change, you've got to do something about it. You have to get still in front of that mirror that reflects your soul. It's the only way that he can start to heal your emotions is if you sit with them. Quit denying it. Quit trying to be strong. Quit pretending like it doesn't exist. Put it all out there. Let God's light shine on it. Say, this is what it is. I wished it was different. I wished I could change it. But God, you'll give me the strength to change what I can change, but what I can't change, I'm stuck in this pit. I'm a prisoner to my emotions. That's when God says, just be still. Because when you're still, you can feel his presence. So in the closing song, Renee's going to sing the song of, I need to be still. I need to be still this morning, God. I need to get my thoughts together. I need to find out where you're wanting to take me on this path. I need to find out how I can get an answer to this situation. I need to quit trying to figure it out because I can't. I've tried every door of opportunity, every window. It doesn't seem to work. So God, I just need to be still this morning. And before I try to think about all of it, I just want to be still, and I want to feel your presence. I want to be still. I'm going to let you love me. I'm going to receive your love. Because I want to soar so high that the eagle can't stay on my back any longer. So as she sings this song this morning, just rest in your soul. Let him take the weariness and give you strength. Let him wipe away the tears of sorrow. Let him refresh your soul. Stop trying so hard to do it on your own. And say, God, I'm just going to sit here I'm going to tell you I love you. I'm going to tell you that I know that you have my best interest in mind. And I want you to love me. God bless you.